Ben, welcome to Raw Talks at the IGF AGM. Is local content success down to national regulation or corporate policy?
I believe it's both. I don't believe governments are very capable in implementing local content on their own. It must be a collaboration between governments and industry. So that's where corporate policy, of course, comes into play. But if the clear tone has been set by governments, investors will pick up on that, and together with governments, they can make a difference.
Local content is high on the Ghanaian government's agenda.
That's true.
What is your strategy?
Call it a flexible approach, a collaborative approach. Government has decided that it's important to develop the linkages. So within this framework, you have some amount of flexibility, you have input from the industry, so that together we can decide which direction to go. It's impossible to produce everything locally or to source every service locally, but as much as it's possible, we want to push the envelope and make sure it happens.
In general, is there a risk of over-regulating local content? Too much regulation will kill the regulation.
I personally believe so, that especially when it's unilateral, without consultation with the industry, and we impose regulations which might not be realistic. But having said that, let me say that currently Ghana is in the process of reviewing the regulations that we have. There's been arguments that in attempting to be as flexible as possible to accommodate all stakeholders, at the same time, we have not brought about the clarity that is needed. So it might be important to spell out in a bit more detail some of the requirements.
Local content has been caught up in a resource nationalism debate. Is local content value-adding or value-grabbing?
I believe that properly designed and implemented, it should more be value creating, not value grabbing, because it should make business sense. If it is not done that way, one could stand the risk of not just attempting value grabbing, but more value destruction. Because in the end, I believe in optimally generating the value. And then one could talk about how do we share the value. If the value is not created optimally, then we'll overall lose the size of the pie. Irrespective of how you share it, somebody's going to lose out. So one needs to look at how efficiently to generate the total value. And if done right, local content can contribute to that. If you had a competitive advantage to produce an input locally, it should generally be cheaper than importing it, given freight cost and all that. So there are arguments for sourcing locally, especially if it makes business case. And I guess in that context, then it could be value generating.
Looking forward, how do you see the technological developments impacting local content?
That's an interesting one. It's not very clear how technology is going to affect mining yet, but we know for sure it's going to. If you look at it in terms of the human resource dimension, we believe the impact would be severest on the most unskilled. The more skilled labor will not have as much of challenge as the unskilled. I was on a panel earlier saying that you could look at its 3 dimensions. By mine, the introduction of technology can be very abrupt. If you look at it nationally, it will be less abrupt because mine investment tends to be very capital intensive and therefore quite chunky. It's not gradual. So you don't just replace on sort of a slow decline. It's chunky. And so for a mine, it could be a certain thing. for the country at large, well, one mine may introduce new technology and there will be losses of jobs. But if you have the right skills, you could find another job. If you go beyond national and you look international, it becomes less of a problem for skilled labor. Indeed, that's what happened in the 80s. There are lots of Ghanaians, mining experts, anywhere there is mining globally, because they were displaced and they moved on. So that we expect to happen again. I think that we are doing quite a bit to prepare for possible changes in technology to ensure that Ghana is not shortchanged.
Ben, thank you very much for joining me here today.
Pleasure. I believe that mining can take place in one of two constructs, either in terms of leakages or linkages. If a conscious effort is made to develop mining within the context of linkages, then it could be linked to other sectors of the economy, and the benefits would be several multiples more than if it were not done that way. So for me, a large number of countries where mining has taken place, is continuing to take place, have not really developed the capacity to link the activity to the rest of the economy. And therefore, the typical resource curse is what we end up having, with not that much benefits, but having suffered the negative consequences of mining. So that's why it's important to relook at it again and see, can we do better?